Okay, so we'll start now. Let's open the example scene. We'll have it like in the recent files. Okay, the render layers. Okay, so we have like a very simple scene here, and I'll just go for the Redshift view and play the interactive render preview. Okay, and currently we don't have set it up any AOVs or anything else here. However, if we take a look here on the hypershade, we have like different materials including subsurface scattering and everything else. So I will first go to set up my AOVs. The output settings are slightly above the default settings. We have like GI turn on, slightly more bounces, like 7 bounces. And now for the AOVs, we're going to add a beauty pass. We're going to add all the passes or AOVs that we need to reconstruct our beauty pass. So it means like we're going to add a diffuse lighting, global emission, global illumination, reflections, refractions, specular lighting, subsurface scatter, volume lighting, we're kind of missing something here. Beauty, diffuse, emission, GI, reflections, refractions, specular, subsurface, volume. I would say that is all, but actually I'm just going to add a ambient occlusion pass, since we're going to have this only on one layer for the material override. So I'll be adding the ambient occlusion pass. I'll be adding a depth pass to get a Z depth channel. And this will be pretty much it for this session. So volume lighting, emission, subsurface scattering. Okay, so this will be our AOVs. And now we need to set up some things like first, for the beauty pass, actually in the attribute editor for the settings for the beauty pass, actually the data type I want to output is not just red, green and blue channels. I want to have alpha as well on my beauty pass. And also, as I told previously, for the Z depth, I will adjust minimum depth and Z normalized, or for some softwares maybe we'll use a Z normalized inverted. I'll just put Z normalized for now. Okay, and this is pretty much it. So now actually I'm just going to open this render setup and I'll start to create my layers. Okay, so the layer with everything in it will be rendered anyway and it will be called a master layer setup. Okay, so in terms to extract all of these objects, first I will add a background layer, and on the background layer I want to have just the floor and the walls. Okay, so I'll just press Alt D to deselect, and first I will create my layers. Okay, so first I'll just rename to call it like background. Okay, and then for the other layers I'll just kind of try to make a layer for each of these objects. But before this thing starts to get messy, let's stick to this one layer and to see how it actually works. Okay, so the layer does not mean anything by itself. It just tells Maya that I want to have something rendered separately in the separate folder, and all the AOVs that were set it up in the render settings will be rendered for each of these layers that we're going to set up. Okay, now if I right click here, first thing is that I will create a collection. Okay, so I'll click here, and actually I'll call it like back collection or whatever. And actually I will add all of my objects. So in this case we can actually do it in the two ways, in terms that we need to create an override. So I will use like a longer way here. So I will add like all the geometry. So as you can see, I'm selecting all my geometry in the outliner, or you can do it from viewport, it really doesn't matter. And with this geometry selected, I will click here on the add button. Okay, now you can see that all of these geometry has been added, but before I proceed, since mostly I'm going to use a visibility override, actually I'm going to go to the Redshift and make sure that my visibility has been enabled for all the objects. So I can do object by object, or actually I can add an override firstly, but so far let's say I want to do it object by object, so most likely I need to do on each object separately, and I want to enable the visibility parameters for each of my geometry. And at the bottom for the Torus. Okay, so now what I'm actually want to have here, I mentioned that I want to have like these four planes actually only rendered here. So it means that other objects won't be visible. However, I want to preserve the shadows, the global illumination, the reflections, and everything else that is there. So now you can see here in the attribute editor there is a primary ray visible. So I will drag this with the middle mouse button here to add override area, And now you can see that actually something happened here. So now I'll just kind of turn on my Redshift render view, and actually here now I'm not looking at this, I'm looking at my main scene. But if I click here on this eye icon on my layer, I will actually look what I'm seeing here. And if I refresh, okay, so I just add a primary visibility, nothing has happened. But you can see now immediately when I click on this eye, you can see that this part of the attribute editor turns orange. And it means that the override has been accepted. Okay, so now if I uncheck primary visibility, all the objects will not be visible. Okay, so now I need to select the object and override his primary visibility just for this object. Okay, so with this wall selected, I will just right click here and choose create absolute override. Ooh, not good. And actually things didn't appear as expected, sorry, but I will move forward, and also I'll create the absolute override. And now when I unchecked for the second object, actually the whole objects are kind of disappearing, and this might occur. Okay, and I'll just delete these guys. So I'll just try to do it one more time. I'll just select it and just try to do it like so. I'll just try to select one object and try to right click here and say create absolute override, and then turn off primary visibility. Let me try to select the other object and to just do the same. Okay, so then we'll go and do it like safer way. So in this back collection, instead of kind of putting all these objects, I will actually just put the objects that I want to have there. So I'll select this and remove everything, and actually I'll just go to see my scene here, and actually going to add all of the walls and the floor that I want to have in this scene. And now in this collection I'll just add those guys. Okay, and now I'll just play it back to watch the scene. So now you can see I'm having just my background here. Okay, but actually now I have my 4 layers lit with the light in the scene, but I don't have influence of the global illumination or the reflection of all the other objects. Okay, so to do so, actually I'm just going to create a new collection. So I'll click here on this layer and click create collection. Okay, and this collection I will call it environment, even though it's not environment, but I prefer, so I will call it like back underscore env. Okay, and I created a new collection here. So, and into this env collection I will just add everything except the walls I've been added on the previous collection. So I'll just select all the other geometry and add to this collection. So now I can see I have two collections. On the first collection are actually our walls and the floor, and on the second collection are actually the torus, spheres and cubes. And now I'll just try to do the override here. So I'm selecting this connection, and actually I'll just drag this, sorry, it's kind of, and I'll just drag my primary visibility here. So the override has been created, and I'll just uncheck the primary visibility. So let's move this render to see if it's going to be any change. Yep. So now you can see I override the primary visibility for my second collection, but actually you can see now everything else by the primary visibility is visible. So the secondary ray, cast shadows, reflections, refractions, everything is there. Okay, so there is a catch here. Now I created this override, and actually if I don't emphasize that I want this override to be only related to this layer, it will kind of stay active on the other layers. So now I just want to right click and choose convert to local render override. And I can see, now you can see I'm having like this little dot here. So this means that this override applies only on objects related to this layer background. Okay? So now I'm going to create another layer. And in this case, I'll just create a new layer here on this new layer icon. And I'm just going to name it like I want to create layer just for this cube here. Okay. So I will call it like a back cube. Okay. So back underscore cube. Well, I think this camera should be locked. I don't know why it isn't. So I'll just lock selected. So now actually I'm going to apply the same procedure. So I'll create a collection. Create a collection. So right click on the layer, create collection, and I'll call it like back cube collection. Okay, and actually I will just select this cube and add it to a collection. So I will activate my Redshift render view one more time, and now I will click on this layer. Okay, so that I can see it. Sorry, I need to hit play button. Okay, so now we have what we've expected. Now in this cases you need to check the alpha channel as well, and so far it looks good, but actually when we add an environment we will lose this alpha channel. Okay, because even though we're just rendering the cube here, maybe we'll get like the other kind of wall which is kind of blocking our alpha channel, but we'll see about it. So I'll just create a new collection. So right click on the layer, create collection, and I'll call it like back cube underscore env underscore collection, and I will add all the other geometry, sorry, except this cube that I have been added. And let's go to the beauty pass, and I'll just hit add button here. So one more time, we have our scene completely assembled, and now I'll just need to do the overrides. So with my collection selected, I can choose any of the objects here. So I can select any of the objects, since my add override is set to absolute. So it means that all the objects in the collection will get the same override. Okay, so I'll get to the attribute editor, and actually I'll just kind of drag this with the middle mouse button here. Okay, so now I can see that the primary visibility override has been added, and I'll just click here to uncheck it. And now, as you can see, we are having our cube fully lit and with the GI and everything else there. And let's check the alpha channel. Well, alpha channel is good as well. Well, this is amazing. Okay, so let's continue further. So now we have like, let us see what we set it up. So now we have like our background layer. So now I'll click on our back cube layer, and you can see that we extracted just this cube. And now we'll continue this process. So I'll just select this kind of sorry. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'll just click here on this sphere that is on this cube, and I'll call it like, I'll create a new layer. So on the new layer icon, and I'll call it like back sphere. Okay, and I'll create another collection. So create collection, and I will call it like back sphere collection. Okay, and actually I will just hit add so that I can see, and now I'll just hit on the eye icon so that I can see what I'm having in this scene. And now, as you can see, I'm having this sphere just lit with light, and also I need to create another collection for the environment. So create collection, and I'll call it like back sphere env. Okay, and actually I'm going to add everything but the sphere. Okay, I'll hit add, and now one more time we have our complete scene, and now we need to set up the override. Okay, just one more thing, I forgot to just right click on this previous override to convert to local render override. Okay, so now I will select any of the objects, and actually I will select my collection for the environment, and I'll drag this primary ray visible into the add override area. And now you can see that the override has been accepted, which means that in my attribute editor the primary ray visible highlight has been highlighted in orange, and I'll just uncheck primary visibility. So now you can see I'm having just my sphere. I'm just going to check alpha one more time. And I'll click on my override and just right click and convert it to local override. Okay. And now I'm just going to repeat that for the cube. And you can see the things will start to getting interesting while we get to the torus. So now I'll select, I will actually create the layer for my front cube. I'll just kind of close this layer that I've been set it up just to have a bit more place, and create a new layer, and I will just call it front cube. Okay, and I'll create a collection, so the front cube collection. And maybe I'll just copy this, Control C. Okay, I'll just hit the enter button, and now I'll create a new collection. Create collection, and this one will be called front cube underscore Env. Okay, and I'm actually going to add everything but this cube, so all the other geometry, and I'll hit add. Okay, just let me see. Okay, I'm not looking at my path. So now I can see everything is there. Or maybe just not. Oh yeah, I didn't add my cube to collection, so I'll just select it here and add it to collection. Now you can see everything is here. And now, just like we did previously, we will collect, we'll create an override for the Env collection. So I'll just select any object from the collection and actually drag it to create a primary visibility or primary ray visible override. Okay, I'll just right click to convert to local render override, and I'll uncheck primary visibility, and now you can see that I'm having like just this cube, and I'm also having a good alpha channel for it. Okay, super. So one more time, let's check it out. The background cube, the background sphere, the front cube. Now we'll create a new layer which we'll call like a front sphere. I'll just copy this name. Okay, and I'll create a new collection. So I'll call it a front sphere collection. And I'll also create another collection, and we'll call it like front sphere underscore Env collection. So now we need to add our object. So for the front sphere, I will just select my sphere and add it. And now I'll select all the other geometry and I'm going to select my collection, Env collection, and add everything else there. And now I'll switch to view my new layer. Now we have complete scene, so any object from this collection can be selected, and we'll create a primary visible override. Okay, and I'll just uncheck the primary visibility. I'm going to check my alpha channel, and now you can see that we have this on the separate layer. Okay, cool. So one more time, background, cube, sphere, cube, sphere. Okay, so now we are actually come up to the torus, and I can see the torus is kind of overlapping with a multiple objects. And this can be tricky because if we kind of just put it on the separate layer, we'll have this back edge go on top of other layers. So it means that we actually need to mask. We need to mask this torus with these objects, okay? With these objects, okay? Maybe even we can mask it with this object, but I don't know, I'll decide later. I can add it to the collection if I want to. So I will need to create two overrides in this situation. So first I will just create a new layer, and I'll just call it like Torus. Let's call it front. Okay. And I need to add a couple of collections here. So I'll create a collection, and I'll just call it like a Torus collection. Okay. So I'll just turn on to render this Torus collection, and I'll get nothing because I didn't add anything to the collection. So if I now select the Torus, you can see now if we composite this, actually we'll have this part on top of the spheres. So anyway, I need to create another collection for the environment, like so I'll just create, well, let's do the environment later. I just need to have a mask. So I'll just try to actually go back to this to view my original scene, and actually I want to have a new collection out of these objects, and I will call it a mask collection. Okay, so right click, create collection, and I'll just call it like Torus mask. Mask collection. Okay, and I will add these selected objects to the collection. Now it will be tricky as well because I don't know, maybe these objects will mask the Torus in front as well, but I will add them anyway. Okay, so, and I will need to create, so I'll just go back to my layer. So now you can see where these objects are. Okay, so now with this object selected, I will just go here, sorry, or one of these objects selected, and now I will scroll down further in the attribute editor and actually open this matte section. Okay, and actually, since this matte option is not going to be active on all layers, just on all objects all the time, just like the visibility option is, I need to create first the override for that. Okay, just on the previous layer to convert local global to local, and now I will just drag this, sorry, so I'll select this collection, and with the middle mouse button I'll drag this matte option. Okay, so now I'm just going to enable it. So what's just happened, if I kind of switch to my alpha channel, you can see now that these objects are not visible. However, you can see that I'm going to have an issue because actually these objects will not kind of just cut the back of my torus. They will also cut the front. Okay. So in this situation, I need to create another mask that's going to be to mask these objects with the torus. Okay, so just let me create another collection, or actually let me add just this collection. Let me try to add Torus to this collection. Okay, I'll add Torus, and now you can see that I don't get any other result. Okay, since I'm actually not looking at it. Now everything is masked. However, now I just need to extract this matte somehow, this Torus object, and actually I'll try to do in a different way. So I'll just try to select this Torus object, but I don't know if it needs to be a part of the same collection, and create a relative override for visible layer. Okay, so now I'll try to pull this alpha to 0 to see if I'm going to get something, and I'm getting nothing. It's not going to work like this. So no, I'm just going to remove the Torus from the collection. Okay. Well, I don't know how, but actually it happened. Okay, just let me see what happened with my Torus. Okay. Maybe it just didn't refresh properly for the first time, but so far, as you can see, I'm just getting a valid alpha here that I need. So what I'm having, like in this collection, it's a, okay, this is a Torus, and this is like all the other stuff as mask. Okay, so now I just need to select this two overrides that I have been created and to convert it to the local override. Okay, so now you can see we have like this back of the Torus masked. Okay, so let's toggle through all the layers background. one cube, one sphere, one cube, one sphere, and the torus. And what is not good here, we need to create another collection, because now this torus does not get the GI and everything else. So just like we did on the previous layers, we need to create a new collection. Let me save this scene so far. So save scene as render layers, Maya binary, not the Darth Vader, not this project. Okay. Your name 5300 RS multipass scenes, and I'll just add render layers school version 001. Okay, and now I'll create a collection, and I'll call it like just Torus underscore env collection. Okay, and now I'll just add all the other objects except Torus. Okay, and I'm just going to turn off the primary visibility for them. So in order to do so, I'll just select any of these objects, and then I just need to go here under the primary visibility and drag with the middle mouse button primary ray visible to create override and turn off the primary visibility. And yep, this is like a major fuck up. So let me try to move it like so. Yep. And now I'm having like this issue with the alpha channel. But we will solve this in a different manner. So I'm just going to delete this collection in order to preserve alpha. So why is that? Even though I'm not getting like the lighting on this layer as I should, I'm just going to use this layer as a mask. So I'm just going to name it like mask. Okay, and then I'm just going to set up like a beauty pass for this layer, which I'm going to mask with this one. Okay, so I'll just create another layer. So I'll just call it Torus. Torus unmasked. And I'll just create a new collection here. So create a collection and call it like Torus. Unmasked collection. Okay, and I'll just add Torus there. So I'll try to see what I'm getting now. And now I'll just add the Env layer. So create collection, and I'll just call it like, okay, let me copy this one, Control C and Control V underscore env collection. Okay, so now I'm just going to add all the other geometry. Okay, and I'm going to create an override. Okay, and then uncheck primary visibility. So now I'm getting like my Torus with the GI and going to mask it in compositing with this mask. Okay, I'll just use the alpha from this previous layer, and I will use like the rendering from this layer. Okay, so we just need to create another layer, and this layer I guess will be from this sphere in front, so like so. And I'll call it like a big sphere, so I'll just call it like big sphere. Big sphere. And actually now I'll select this sphere, and now I'll create a new collection. I'll call it like big sphere collection. Sorry, I already have a collection here. And I'll just add this big sphere and click to toggle layer visibility, and now you can see that we are actually getting the issue with the alpha channel. If we take a look at our scene, full scene, and go to the, okay, hopefully just refresh the render. Now you can see that this kind of sphere actually isn't transparent. It has like only the refracted image in it. So in this case, this alpha channel that I'm getting from this layer will not actually, sorry, I just need to refresh it one more time. Will not fully mask my sphere. And in this case, I can solve this on the multiple ways. Actually, I'm going to use the beauty pass, the refraction pass, actually from my main master layer setup. However, I need to make this mask opaque, not transparent. And to do so, there are multiple ways to do it, but I will just try to actually add a shader override, and I will use a Redshift sprite shader just to give me an opaque alpha. So now watch this. I'll just right click here on the collection, and there's an option here which is called create shader override. Okay, so create shader override. And actually what I'm getting here, you need to stretch this window a bit, or actually to scroll this all the way till the end. I can now browse the shader. So I can either drag with the middle mouse button shader from the hyper shade if I already have shader that I made previously and I want to override the shader. In this case, I'm overriding with the shader that I'm just going to create. So I'm just going here on this checkerboard to browse. And here on the Redshift shader, I will use Redshift sprite shader. Okay. And I don't know if I'm getting something. Shader override, sprite shader, big sphere. Okay, let's add all. Let me try to refresh it one more time. But actually, I mean, if it's not working, I will just add an architectural shader. It will just going to be to give me like a. I'll just delete this override shader override, material override. Okay. Well, now I'll just undo this, or actually I'll just kind of delete this override. So just let me back to my connection here, remove sprite shader, and now I'll just try to do it one more time. Okay, create shader override. Okay, and here under the properties I'll just try to create a new shader. Well, okay, let me create a standard. Well, this isn't what I've been expected, but I will keep, or I will stay persistent, and maybe I'll just try it with the material override. Okay, the property editor, and okay, shader. Okay, now I'm getting like the straight alpha. So that's probably the material. I will just try one more time with a sprite. So I'll just delete this one, and one more time create a material override. Go here to the property editor and actually go for the Redshift sprite shader, and I'm getting the fuck up. Okay, so then actually I'll just delete it and create the override one more time, material override, and I'll use like a Redshift standard. Okay, and actually now I don't care how the beauty path will look like, because I'm just going to use this alpha that I'm getting from this layer. I'm just going to use this alpha to extract what I need from my master layer. Okay, cool. And I just need to create another shader override, and this will be a ambient occlusion pass. So now I'll just create a new layer, and I'll just call it like AO layer. And I'll create a new collection. So create a collection, and I'll just call it AO collection. Okay, and actually, since I'm just going to override the shader here, I will actually add all of these guys. Okay, cool. So I'll now just click here to see what's going on with my rendering, and this is pretty much it. And for this collection, I will just try to actually override everything here with an architectural shader, and I will enable the ambient occlusion on the architectural shader. So create material override. Okay, I'll go here to my property editor and actually create a Redshift architectural shader here. So now you can see that actually it has been overridden. Now we still don't have anything in the ambient occlusion pass, because now I didn't enable ambient occlusion here on the shader. So I'll just enable it. I don't know if it's going to update here, so I'll just stop the interactive preview render and actually render a regular one, and now you can see that I'm getting ambient occlusion pass here. Okay, so just the interactive preview render, and you can see it needs a little touch on the sampling because it's too noisy. So there are a couple of ways that we can solve this. I'll just escape this, and here for the ambient occlusion I'll say like 512 samples, so I'll just re-render it one more time, and now you can see it's way better. And also maybe I can play around with the max distance, so maybe I'll just add this max distance to 12 to see if I'm getting like a bit of a softer ambient occlusion. Yeah, it's not that kind of harsh, less contrast, or maybe more contrast, but it really depends what you want or what you like or whatever. But let's say we'll put it somewhere in between, so I'll just put it, press escape, and then choose a 6 maybe here. Okay, let's try it with 100. And it will be way too much, but let us see what's happening. Well, now it's much kind of softer, but actually so far, but it's now kind of more noisy, so I don't want to kind of build up the sample, so I'll just put it to 0 as it was, which means that actually Redshift is going to use automatic way to calculate that, and maybe I can put like a bit of more samples here. Let's say 1024. Okay, now it's good. So now we actually created a separate layer just to kind of override all the materials in order to get like an ambient occlusion pass if we want to kind of add it in the multiply and compositing. And let's say we're good with this one. Okay, so I'm just going to save scene as a version 2. And so far I can do a batch render. So in this case I'll just to the common, I'll set it up as an open EXR here. I'll choose my render camera, which is camera 1. I can choose my resolution, which will leave it like this, and I'll just kind of choose animation from 1 frame to 1 frame. Okay, add it, and maybe I will change project image directory. So instead of to go here, okay, I will navigate this to our shared drive, your name 5300 anim renderer, and RS multipass, and I'll just create a new folder, school multi layer. And I'll just click select here. Okay, so now you can see that all the images will be kind of rendered here. Sorry, Owen. And now actually I will accept this, so it will change my path. So for the output, now I don't know, I will not raise the samples. I think it's good for this occasion. GI, photons, subsurface scattering, I set it up here to ray traced, and this is pretty much it. I will save the scene, and now I'll just go to the rendering and go for the render and choose batch render. Okay, this was odd. So batch render. And now it will start to render. Okay. And just let us go briefly to our images folder. So now you can see this is a school multi-layer, and now first the master layer will be rendered. So it will be just the layer with all the passes. So if I open this, now you can see the all passes without any interfering will actually be created. Then here in another folder, Maya will actually create folder according to our layer names with all the render passes. Okay. So I'll just wait for actually for another folder to be created, just to see how we're progressing here. So not all the passes has been rendered. Okay, now we have all these passes, and now as you can see, now the background layer has been rendered, or the rendering in progress of a background layer. And now the back cube, back sphere is going to be rendered one by one with all their multi passes. Okay. And yeah, it's kind of making the render time longer, but in this case not that longer. I mean, most definitely it will kind of last more than you just kind of render the beauty pass or just the standard multi-pass. But you can see now we'll have like our beauty pass here for this, and now you can see now the back cube layer has been rendered. Okay. And now the sphere layer has been rendered, and one by one folder actually will be rendered. So I'll just pause this tutorial here and we'll continue afterwards.